talking about toxic food landmines and how to avoid them. And it's really a relevant topic because as we go into this week, obviously it's a holiday week, Thanksgiving. Those of you who are in the U.S., I know it's a little bit different in Canada, but those of you in the U.S. getting ready to go off and visit family or have family come in. And one of the biggest toxic food landmines is what I call OPF. Now, the first one who can chime in on the feed and tell me what OPF stands for, we're going to send you a free copy of No Grain, No Pain. So again, the first person that chimes in and tells me what OPF stands for, we're going to give you a free copy. Let's wait for that answer real quick. We got Debbie from Saskatchewan, Canada, another Canadian. And let's see here. Let's see who is going to catch the... we got Yvonne from Barbados, and we got Peruz from Los Angeles. Okay, it looks like Marie's the big winner. She got it first. I see hers chiming in first. So Marie Garoli, let's make sure that we get her. Marie, if you'll tune in and private message us and send us your address, we're going to send you a free copy of No Grain, No Pain for the right answer. The right answer here, of course, is other people's food. Anytime you're traveling, anytime you visit other people, and they tell you, like if you're following the No Grain, No Pain diet or the gluten-free diet, the true gluten-free diet, they'll tell you, oh, come on over, I know how to cook gluten-free, I can do it just right, just for you. And you show up and you eat their food because they were just like really adamant that they could help you out, and you ended up getting sick, right? Like this is where OPF can be very, very dangerous. And I know maybe it sounds kind of silly, but other people's food oftentimes leads to cross-contamination, sickness, because they're not educated, they don't know well enough. Like when they're talking about gluten-free, what that means to them is they go over to the local grocery store and they buy the cake mix that's full of toxic rice flour that has cadmium and arsenic in it, or they buy corn chips, or they buy corn flour, and so the gravy's being made with corn flour or something like that, and you end up getting sick because they thought gluten-free meant wheat, barley, and rye-free, and they didn't realize that gluten-free actually means grain-free, and so they made you sick because they were putting things in your food and they just didn't know. So first and foremost, it's very important, and I'm not trying to blame the other people. The responsibility falls to you. If you want to avoid the toxic food trap, it doesn't matter whether this is grandma or Aunt Jane or whoever that is in your family. They're going to try to coax you into eating what they're going to prep for you, but you have to realize that ultimately the responsibility falls on your shoulders to avoid other people's food unless they've had proper training in food technique or unless they're following the same diet. Now that goes to show in many families where people have similar illnesses and autoimmune diseases, they tend to gravitate toward the same diet. And so in those situations, it's a lot easier to eat other people's food because if they eat something that's taboo, it'll make them just as sick as it'll make you. So they're putting greater care and greater and better ingredients into that food. You're not getting the genetic manipulated ingredients. You're not getting the toxic swill they sell as food in most common grocery stores. The packaged boxes, all that kind of stuff that you really want to try to avoid in order to stay healthy. Again, one of the biggest food landmines is OPF. For the holidays especially, very, very true if you're traveling to visit family. Again, and as you're visiting those family members, they don't really know the diet as well as you do. And nor should they. Again, that's what I mean. Don't blame your relatives, blame yourself if you fall prey to this one. Now, one of the things that you can do, I was going on to number 2, but before I go on to number 2, one of the things that you can do here, and one of the things I like to do, one of my favorite things is the travel suitcase, the food suitcase in a sense. So the food travel suitcase, and one of the things I always travel with beef jerky or turkey jerky or some type of grass-fed, organic, dried meat that's easy to carry, doesn't perish very quickly, so you can carry it. It keeps for a very long time. I like to carry nuts, just dried nuts, and you can buy them in the shell or out of the shell, but very, very easy to travel with. Canned fish or packeted fish, things like tuna or sardine or salmon, very easy to travel with, packs nicely. So pack you a travel suitcase. That way when you are, if you're on an airplane or if you're in the airport or if you're driving long distances, you're not pulling over at the convenience store. You're not pulling over at the gas station, and buying something that far from healthy. Most of those things that you can purchase in those types of stores aren't really food. They fall under what I would like to call the fruit category. So other people's, really, if we add an R to that, it's fruit, because that, generally speaking, if the people that you're going to see don't eat healthy, they're not going to serve you really food. They're going to serve you what their perception of food is, but they're not going to serve you healthy. They're going to serve you fruit. And of course, in order to maintain your health, you can't do that. Again, we got other people's food, or fruit, if you will. The solution to that is to not let them coax you into eating it. Now, here's another scenario that sometimes happens during the holiday season: is you show up, and if you show up unprepared, in this scenario, let's say you're going to an aunt or an uncle's or a grandparent or an in-law's house, and let's say you're just new to the gluten-free diet. This is the conversation this conversation should come up before you show up. And what I mean by that is, if you show up expecting and demanding that you be served gluten-free, grain-free, non-genetically modified ingredients, it's not going to happen, and it isn't realistic of you to show up on somebody's doorstep with all these different demands when that may not be a part of their lifestyle or part of their culture. So part of it is you have to respect who they are and what they currently know and what they currently do or follow. But one of the things that I recommend to avoid the other people's food conflict, because here's what happens sometimes, is you get there, you didn't talk to them, you feel guilted into eating their food, because why? Because they worked so hard to prepare for you, right? And that guilt is on your shoulders, but it's your fault for not having a phone conversation or communication with them earlier. Because the way I like this conversation to go before I'm showing up at somebody's house, which is very simple, which is, look, I've got very special food needs, and I don't expect you to meet those needs. They're pretty restrictive by most people's standards. Again, I don't expect you to meet me where I'm at. I also don't expect you to try to coerce me into eating food or guilt me into eating food when I do come. And not that you would try to do that, but I just want to warn you beforehand. I'm going to probably bring some of my own food. And if I don't select certain things at your house, I don't want you to take offense. I appreciate your hospitality and I appreciate what you're doing. It's just that I have a very limited diet on what I can eat if I want to maintain my health. And I know you love me, so I appreciate you understanding and just knowing that this is okay, and that when I get there, if I don't want to eat the food, that it's not me trying to insult your cooking or insult your hospitality. I really do. Just don't want to get sick. So thank you for understanding in advance. That's the conversation that you should have around that topic. And if you don't have that conversation, this is what happens. You get guilted into eating stuff you shouldn't, and then instead of being able to visit your family and have a good time, you end up being in bed, and now you're the weird person with a lot of weird food allergies who can't handle things, and so now you're sickly. So not only did you get punished in two different ways. You get punished for eating something because you didn't want to make somebody else feel bad, but then you also get punished in the way that people are kind of judging you, and then you get socially isolated as part of that punishment. So again, have the conversation before you show up, and that way you can avoid that. You can avoid the entire. You can avoid that entire situation. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.